hear me? Yes, you can. What's going on, guys? Jeezy TV back with another video. Scooch over. And in this video, we are going to be talking about The Walking Dead, the 14th episode of Season 4, The Grove. Pretty big episode for the series. A lot of crazy shit happens. Yeah, this was a good, very disturbing, very horrific episode, like in a good way. All the shocks that happened, it was insane. Okay, we gotta get into it. So, we're moving on to Tyrese, Carol, and sisters Lizzie and Micah. That's kind of like the group we're following for this episode, which I don't like that the show's doing this. They're kind of just dedicating certain episodes to certain groups, which I guess you could do that, because, I mean, switching back and forth doesn't really get the full story, and I mean, they have 11 seasons to do this, so I guess you might as well take your time. They continued their journey to Terminus along the railroad tracks while caring for Rick's young daughter Judith, so Judith is still alive, so that's good when they meet up with Rick, or if they meet up with Rick, which I'm assuming is what's going to happen at the end of the season. Everyone's going to kind of unite at Terminus, and whoever makes it, whoever doesn't. Sorry about the bedhead, it is what it is. Carol and Tyrese are concerned for the survival of the sisters, as Micah is too gentle, and Lizzie appears to not understand what walkers are, and that's going to kind of cost her in the end. They spot a walker get trapped by his legs on the train tracks, so Lizzie pleads with Tyrese to spare it, as it no longer represents a threat. But I mean, these walkers want to kill her, and that is just what she doesn't understand, and again, like I said, that's going to cost her. Yeah. He's like, it's not a threat. Don't kill it, please. Like, it doesn't have feelings. It's damn near an inanimate object with like a. It might as well be like a motor or something, or like a robot or something with a motor in it, bro. So nearby, they find an abandoned home in a pecan grove, which is why it's called the Grove. Carol's suggesting they may want to rest there a few days to kind of take some days off. You're moving around constantly, and when you find any sign of civilization, you kind of want to take advantage of that. And that's exactly what they do with this house with the pecan grove. While Tyrese and Carol clear the house of walkers, a walker approaches the sisters. Micah is quick to shoot it in the head while Lizzie looks on in tears. Now, at first, you're not really sure what she's crying about, but then you start to kind of piece things together, and you kind of start to understand why she's crying, because she, genuinely cares about the walkers. They secure the perimeter of the house and settle in, so she's just, in a very bad mood. They find civilization, but all she cares about is saving walkers, which is, oh man, I don't know. So the following day, Carol sees Lizzie attempting to play tag with a walker, her friend. How kids have imaginary friends. Well, you can have friends through walkers, I suppose. I don't think that's how that works, and Lizzie just doesn't quite understand this concept, but she does it anyway. And she runs out and kills it. So obviously we know how Lizzie feels about walkers getting killed. Lizzie becomes upset and yells at Carol for having killed her friend. She's calling these things her friend. She has, sympathy for them, and, oh, but they're people, too. I don't think so. Later, Carol takes Micah to hunt in the forest, but Micah finds she cannot bring herself to shoot a deer. It's like a living thing. It's not a walker. She doesn't want to shoot it because it has, a heart, it has a brain, all of these sorts of things. So she's feels sympathy. Her and Lizzie are very, opposite to each other. When they return, they find Tyrese has managed to get the water pump working, and he suggests they may want to settle there permanently because there's, a good source of water. You can go kill deer when you want to. It's a very resourceful place to settle in at. Later that day, Lizzie and Micah go back to the train tracks, and Lizzie feeds the trapped walker a mouse. She moves in closer, preparing to let the walker bite her, telling Micah that the walkers want me to change. But a group of walkers suddenly appear, and the two flee back to the house. Now, when it's a problem, when there's a bunch of mobs, Lizzie's then okay, let's run back to the house, I guess. She's weird. She's very contradicting. She almost got bit by the walker and killed her. But Micah's come on, I don't want you to change. She says the walkers want her to change. Getting turned into a walker is changing. Now, it's probably not changing for the better, because you can't talk, you don't have feelings, you're not even really there. It's just, I don't know. Their screams prompt Carol and Tyrese outside, and all four use their guns to eliminate the walkers. So, Lizzie's finally killing walkers, definitely hesitantly because we know how she feels. Later that evening, Carol talks with Lizzie about why the walkers are dangerous and why it is necessary to kill them. She's kind of trying to teach her this lesson that she's been trying to teach her for so long. Lizzie says she understands now what she needs to do. What she's going to do is kind of insane. I didn't expect this to happen, but I think I remember this happening when I watched it 10 years ago, or not. Probably it was probably 7 years ago, but now it's coming back to me. Micah says she does not want to be mean by killing people, and Lizzie tells her you have to, but only sometimes. So maybe this is kind of foreshadowing some things. I didn't really see this at first, but yeah. Carol and Tyrese leave Judith in the care of the sisters as they go hunt because they can't really shoot down the deer. They're not really mature enough to do that. So they decided, you know what, let's just get us some food for the family. Upon their return, they find that Lizzie has stabbed Micah with a knife, killing her. Lizzie killed her sister, which is insane. Going into this episode, you never thought this would happen, but Lizzie is psychotic. She's gone off the edge. Lizzie, looking happy, assures Carol and Tyrese that it's okay because she'll come back, but not as a human, which, again, she doesn't really understand. Lizzie tries to prevent them from interfering by holding a gun on them, insisting that Micah will be okay since she did not stab her brain. And she knows not to stab her brain and just to let her bleed out. She probably stabbed her in the heart or something. Carol calms Lizzie down enough to take the gun away and asks her to take Judith and go inside with Tyrese while she ties Micah up so she doesn't wander away. Yeah, we don't want your friend to wander away. Yeah, okay, Lizzie. Lizzie says she was about to do the same to Judith, but Carol calmly points out that as an infant, she can't even walk yet. Lizzie was about to stab Judith and turn her into a walker, but, thank goodness she didn't, because Judith has such a long life ahead of her. Lizzie agrees and goes inside with Terry. She's like, yeah, you're right, we should probably let her live longer before we kill her. Okay, Lizzie, you killed a human. It's not morally justifiable. Carol starts to cry. She mourns over Micah and slowly pulls out her knife to put her down for good. She stabs her in the head. She's like, no, we can't let her turn into a walker. Later, Carol and Tyrese discuss what to do with Lizzie. He reveals Lizzie admitted to luring walkers to the prison fence using rats as bait. So, they were trying to figure out who was luring the walkers to the fence. This whole time it was Lizzie, so yeah, that's who to blame. It was also Lizzie who made the bizarre splayed rabbit effigy back at the prison. Oh my god, she's disgusting. Tyrese wonders if she was the one responsible for killing Karen and David, but Carol reasons that Lizzie would have let them turn. However, her uncertain grasp on reality means she still poses a threat to Judith and the others, so she should probably be taken out, let's be honest. Tyrese offers to take Judith and continue on to Terminus, but Carol suggests that it would be unwise to divide their group. They need to stay together as long as possible, and that makes sense. They both conclude Lizzie is too dangerous to be around other people. Tyrese says he cannot kill the child, leaving the onerous task to Carol, because she's already killed other people. Tyrese doesn't know that just yet. The next day, Carol asks Lizzie to come outside to gather some flowers for Micah to, make a memorial. Lizzie realizes Carol is upset and thinks it is because she pointed a gun at her. How insensitive is that? Lizzie just has no understanding of a situation. She has no awareness of what she did. Lizzie starts crying and saying she was worried, but Carol, now crying also, insists she look at the flowers just like the sisters kind of bonded over earlier, maybe some more subtle foreshadowing. She returns to the house and gives the gun to Wait, what? She draws a revolver and shoots Lizzie in the back of the head and buries the sisters' bodies. Realizing it was the right thing to do, having she killed her sister, she might as well go down too. She returns to the house and gives the gun to Tyrese, admitting she had killed Karen and David to prevent the spread of an infection at the prison. So now these people are just breaking down. They're just killing each other. So it's like a food chain. Tyrese could have killed Carol for that. She told him with her killing the other people at the prison. She tells Tyrese to do whatever he feels he needs to do. If he needs to shoot or do it, it's justifiable. Seeing that the taking of another life affects Carol deeply, he says he won't forget, but he forgives her because it is not a decision she makes lightly. Obviously it's not like Lizzie, casually just killing people. It's not like that. The next day, Carol, Tyrese, and Judith leave the house and continue towards Terminus. So now those two children died, and now we have 3 people left in that group. Yeah, man, Melissa McBride as Carol played a great role. The ending of the episode was kind of weird, but her performance was great. The episode, one of its most gut-wrenching, for sure. It's a 9.5 out of 10 on IGN. This episode of Walking Dead took the post-prison group we kind of didn't care about that much and gave them the most surprisingly intense and emotional story of the bunch. Writer Scott Gimple and director Michael Satrazimis, the show's director of photography, changing it up, brought us what the show does best, wrenching tales of loss both through the actions of others and the actions one commits themselves. And Gimple, being a huge fan of the Robert Kirkman comic series, lovingly lifted parts of this story from an arc in the books involving a couple of other characters. So those who've read up will have appreciated Lizzie's peculiar tendencies. It's a number 1 best episode on IGN's The Walking Dead top 10 episodes list. Some people thought this was the best episode of the series. Well, I guess at the time, Forbes liked it. I mean, it's a morality play. It comes down hard on one side of the nature versus nurture line. The writing's great, while much of the credit for the growth goes to showrunner Scotty Gimper, who also wrote this episode with a nod perhaps to John Steinbeck's Of Mice and Men. There's a lot of credit to go around in an episode as strong as this one. And Mika, Kyla Kennedy, was not only sweet but steadfast and bright, and Starbina, who also played Marty Hart's daughter in True Detective, played her confusion convincingly. Chad Coleman seemed like he had seen something he wishes he couldn't see. As Carol, Melissa McBride drew on the deposits of strength and decency that allowed her to do this without seeming like a monster. Indeed, when she pulled the trigger, her eyes brimming with tears. It's kind of like Jesse killing Gale in Breaking Bad. Like, it almost reminds you of that. And first-time director Michael Satrazimis understood that less is more. And his cutaway to Carol's gun and Tyrese's distant view lent the scene the quiet dignity it deserved. The cynicism of the episode was awesome and appreciated. Of all the sick, demented things that have happened in the zombie apocalypse on The Walking Dead, it's hard to imagine any as shocking and sad as seeing insane little Lizzie standing over the sister she just stabbed to death, no concept of what she just done, fully expecting her to come back. Carol being forced to kill Lizzie was a close second. There's really no two ways about it. This was one of the sickest episodes of The Walking Dead in its entire run. All the darkest crevices of the human psyche came out in this episode of The Grove. And while it's one thing when you see a character like the governor do shocking, demented things, it's far more upsetting and uncomfortable to see a little girl doing them. But that's where the show went in this episode. It's hard to imagine any other show on television would go that dark. You really have to build an audience up for it because it's not an easy thing to swallow at all. It's a C+ on the AV Club. I mean, the plot twist, people did not like them. People saying it's like kind of laughable because it was just too much. The writers took a risk and threw out another shock to catch the audience off guard. This time it was a little girl so convinced that the zombies were her best friends that she murdered her sister. It should be horrifying, and if the episode worked for you, it is horrifying. I mean, it didn't work for some people, though, and the sight of Lizzie standing over that corpse made for a clean break in some people's minds. The whole situation became too ludicrously morbid, too absurdly grim to take seriously, so that's kind of like the negatives of the episode. Some people didn't like the twist, but yeah. I don't really have much to say. I kind of gotta go. Have a good day, I suppose. I am